Chapter 226. His face turned white and red, red and white. After a while, he coldly said, "In short, stay far away from her for me. This princess will naturally stay far away from her. This princess' nose is very sensitive. Don't look at how fragrant my little sister is. When she comes close, I can smell the smell of feces that can't be washed off. Zazie, it's a pity for my little sister's hands. I think the food she makes will also have that smell on it, right? It really is a pity that someone can eat it. Qining, you. Shut up for this king." Chu Xiaoyang felt the veins on his forehead pop out. His blood rushed to his head and his handsome face turned red. He tightly clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He was like an angry lion as he stared at Qining. Damn it, what was this woman's tongue made of? The words that came out of his mouth could anger him to death. No wonder Qin Baiyun was not her match. Even he felt that he was inferior. He really wanted to make some mute medicine and poison her, making her unable to speak for the rest of her life. "Your Highness, what were we talking about before? Oh, you said that the way I hold the reins is wrong. Do you think holding the reins like this is correct?" Qining casually turned her palms over and placed her thumbs on the horse's reins. Her fingers were slender and her palms were white, with a faint blush on them. The delicate skin and the rough reins formed a clear contrast. Chu Xiaoyang looked at her for a while and then slowly nodded. "Next, hold the horse's abdomen with your legs and use your heels to lightly touch the horse's abdomen. The horse will receive the signal to start running. If you want it to stop, then tighten the reins." He suppressed his anger and began to seriously teach her the basics of riding a horse. He wanted her to be convinced of her defeat on the day of the big hunt. One of them was focused on teaching and the other was focused on learning. They no longer argued with each other and there was a short period of harmony between the two of them. Chu Xiaoyang even mounted the jade flower horse and personally demonstrated. He taught as he walked, correcting Qining whenever she did something wrong. The sky was blue and the wind was gentle. The two of them riding side by side looked like a beautiful painting from afar. Under the shade of the tree, Qin Baiyun's eyes seemed like they were about to spit out flames. Her long nails dug deep into her palms, but she did not notice it. Lan Xiang standing beside her couldn't help saying, "Concubine consort, the princess is truly a cheap person." That's right, she really is cheap. There was no one around. Qin Baiyun did not hide the hatred in her heart as she stared at Qining with gritted teeth. "She's so ugly, but she's still trying to seduce His Highness in front of your Highness. She's clearly not putting your Highness in her eyes. This servant can't stand it anymore and really feels wronged for your Highness. An ugly monster like the princess will never be able to fly up to the top of the tree and become a phoenix. The official princess golden crown should belong to your Highness." Chin by shut. "Is this something that you, a servant, should say? If His Highness heard this, what kind of person would this concubine become?" Qin Baiyun scolded Lan Xiang, but there was a flash of light in her eyes. "Good elder sister, you look very proud right now. As your little sister, I want to see just how long you can be proud for." She stared at Qining on the horse's back and spoke in a soft voice, whispering into her ear. Lan Xiang's eyes lit up and she happily said, "Concubine consort, could it be?" Chapter 227. The two of them did not notice Qin Baiyun at all. Even Chu Xiaoyang had forgotten that there was someone like this on the horse track. He was completely shocked by Qining's learning and comprehension skills. If it wasn't for the fact that he personally saw that it was her first time riding a horse, he would have thought that she was pretending to be stupid. He had never seen anyone reach Qining's level on their second ride. It was like she was one with the horse, cooperating very well. "You're learning very quickly." Chu Xiaoyang turned his head and looked at Qining with an expressionless face. This time he did not avoid looking at her face that looked like an actress. Strangely enough, as he got used to her ugly face, he slowly accepted it. "Thank you for the praise." Qinning's eyes curved into a smile. The feeling of riding the horse made her feel very comfortable and she felt that he was more pleasing to the eye than usual. "You've taught me quite well. But if you want to win against this king in the hunt, you're dreaming." Chu Xiaoyang raised his chin and arrogantly said, "If you want to win the hunt, you can't just rely on riding skills. No matter how good your riding skills are, you will still lose that day without a doubt. Your Highness, don't be too confident. Otherwise, your face will be slapped painfully and it will be hard to tell who will win on that day." Qining smiled as she raised her whip and slapped the horse's butt. The blue and white porcelain horse neighed and flew out, leaving Chu Xiaoyang behind. "That date red horse, this princess will definitely take it." The wind carried her clear and melodious voice that was filled with ambition. Chu Xiaoyang narrowed his eyes. Looking at her heroic figure on the horse's back, his lips unknowingly curled into a smile. Suddenly, the smile on his lips froze and his eyes released a cold glow. His legs clamped down on the horse's abdomen and the jade flower horse shot out like lightning, chasing after Chen Ning. Chen Ning, cheap woman. Stop for me. Rein in the horse. Quickly rein in the horse. If you dare harm a single hair on Yun'er's head, this king will take your life. Chu Xiaoyang's loud roar was deafening. It was like thunder exploding on a clear day, rumbling and rumbling. Everyone on the horse track was stunned. They saw Chen Ning and her horse charge out of the track, charging right at Chen Baiyun under the tree. Chen Baiyun and Lan Xiang were scared stiff, not moving at all like wooden statues. Stop, stop. Chen Ning desperately pulled on the reins on the horse, but the blue and white porcelain horse did not react at all. Instead, it ran even faster. Its four hooves raised up, sending dust flying. Its target was Chen Baiyun, as if it had a deep hatred for Chen Baiyun. It charged at Chen Baiyun. Its target was Chen Baiyun's head. Your Highness, save me. The blue and white porcelain was very fast and in the blink of an eye, it was already in front of her. She did not even have a chance to dodge. She saw the blue and white porcelain stand up and raise its front hooves high up, stomping down at Chen Baiyun. Chen Ning's heart almost jumped out. She desperately pulled on the horse, watching as Chen Baiyun was about to die under the iron hooves of the blue and white porcelain horse, but she was powerless. Her mind was in a mess and she couldn't figure out what was going on. Why did the blue and white porcelain suddenly go crazy and charge at Chen Baiyun without any rhyme or reason? In everyone's eyes, this was all done on purpose. It was all because of her jealousy that she wanted to kill Chen Baiyun, so she deliberately charged at Chen Baiyun. Chapter 228. This change happened too quickly and no one could react in time. The horse grooms were all on the other side of the horse track, so they couldn't save Chen Baiyun at all. Seeing that Chen Baiyun was about to be trampled by the horse. In an instant, Chu Xiaoyang's horse had already caught up. He jumped off the back of the horse and grabbed Chen Baiyun. At the same time, he sent out a palm strike that hit the blue and white porcelain horse's abdomen. His palm was very strong and it sent the several hundred-pound horse and Chen Ning on its back flying into the air. The blue and white porcelain horse was hit by his palm that could split stone. Its organs were all shattered, but it did not die. It gave a pitiful cry in the air, sounding very sad. Chen Ning was thrown off the horse's back. She was thrown high into the air and then she fell to the ground. As long as this fall landed, it would definitely break her bones and break her tendons. Even if she didn't die, she would at least be paralyzed. Only Chu Xiaoyang knew martial arts here and only he could save her. But Chu Xiaoyang was tightly holding the trembling Chen Baiyun in his arms. His eyes were cold and emotionless as he looked at Chen Ning in the air with a trace of hatred. It was like his feet were rooted to the ground, not moving at all, allowing her to fall from the sky. Chen Ning looked at the blue sky and white clouds above her head. Her lips curled into a bitter smile. Was she going to die like this? Perhaps if she died, she would be able to return to her original world? She closed her eyes and allowed the wind to blow past her ears as she allowed herself to fall rapidly. She thought that she would be smashed to pieces. However, she didn't. The force of her fall suddenly stopped, and her whole body fell into a strong and thick chest. Someone used his own body to catch her, shielding her body from the fall. That person held her and rolled several times on the ground. After reducing the force of her fall, he protected her as she stood up. Chen Ning opened her eyes in a daze. "Xiaohei, it's you?" She softly cried out. The person who had appeared out of nowhere to save her was Mo Chuan, who had disappeared last night. There was a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth and his eyes revealed a look of pain. It was clear that the force of her fall was too strong, and even with his deep internal energy, he could not bear it and suffered internal injuries. But he still did not hesitate to use his body as a cushion, forcibly withstanding the huge force of the fall for her. "Xiaohei, you. Why are you like this?" Chen Ning's throat felt like it was blocked by something. She could not even finish her sentence. Last time he had also saved her from the back of a horse, but this time was completely different. This time, it was equivalent to using his own life to exchange for hers. She stared at him in a daze, her vision gradually blurring until she could barely make out his face. It turned out that unknowingly, her eyes were already filled with tears. She couldn't describe the feeling in her heart. She could only tightly bite her lips to prevent her tears from flowing out. Actually, he didn't owe her anything at all. On the other hand, she owed him over and over again, but she had never paid him back even once. Although he had saved her twice, she didn't feel much gratitude towards him. Instead, she had always been very wary of him. Even when she brought him into the Wang Fu as a bodyguard, she had her own selfish motives. He didn't have to save her, but he did it without hesitation. He didn't have to appear, but he appeared when she needed him the most. Qianning could not think of an answer. To her, he had always been an unsolved mystery. She had never been able to guess it. Why did elder sister allow that man to hug you? Her words were like adding oil to a fire, making Chu Xiaoyang, who was already on the verge of exploding, explode. Qin, I said, Qin he. Qin Baiyun was so scared that she instantly shut her mouth. Her face turned pale, but her heart was filled with pride. Chu Xiaoyang stared right at Qianning in Emo Chuan's embrace. He did not even look at Emo Chuan, treating him like a dead person. This was because Emo Chuan was wearing a black robe that looked like the clothes of his palace's guards. Bastard, let go of this king's princess and this king will leave you with a complete corpse. Chu Xiaoyang's body released a 10,000-year cold aura. Step by step he walked over to Emo Chuan. His fists were clenched and there was the sound of bones cracking. It was clear that he was truly enraged. Chapter 230. The cold aura coming from Emo Chuan was even heavier than Chu Xiaoyang's, and there was also a cold killing intent coming from him. He stood there without moving. He gently put Qianning down and then pushed her behind him. This action made Chu Xiaoyang even angrier. Your princess? What qualifications do you have to say she's your princess? Emo Chuan's voice was even colder than Chu Xiaoyang's. Each word he said was filled with power. For a concubine, you sent her flying with a single palm strike. You watched her fall from the sky and didn't save her, so what qualifications do you have to say she's your princess? How do you have the face to open your mouth? He cursed to his heart's content and the surrounding people were all stunned. The horse grooms couldn't help shaking their ears and rubbing their eyes. They suspected that they were dreaming. Because they never would have dreamed that there would be someone in this world that dared to point at His Highness' nose and curse at him. Qianning's eyes lit up and she almost wanted to applaud Emo Chuan's words. Wow, so cool. Every single word of his had struck deep into her heart. These words were like a series of large slaps, slapping Chu Xiaoyang's cheeks. Chu Xiaoyang's face was red and filled with anger. His handsome face became twisted as his eyes finally fell onto Emo Chuan's face and he slowly opened his mouth. If this king lets you die like this king isn't surnamed Chu. The anger in his chest almost ignited his entire body. Other than anger, there was also an indescribable emotion in his heart. Especially when he saw this man holding Qianning and the two of them whispering to each other, completely ignoring everyone around them. He couldn't help wanting to kill someone. That was his princess, his woman. Even if he didn't want her and threw her away, he wouldn't allow anyone to touch her. Emo Chuan stood in front of Qianning like a mountain. Facing Chu Xiaoyang, who was filled with killing intent, he did not take half a step back. Chu. He gave a cold laugh and his voice was as cold as ice. Are you worthy of this surname? Seeking death. Emo Chuan's words were like adding oil to a fire, making all of Chu Xiaoyang's blood rush to his head. His eyes almost popped out of his head as his right hand touched his waist and a cold glowing sword appeared in his hand. The sword glow was like water as it flowed endlessly, reflecting the sunlight with a cold glow. The sword was as soft as a snake as it danced in the air. They could only hear the sound of cold breaths being sucked in. The horse grooms around them were all shocked. Even Qin Baiyun never would have thought that Chu Xiaoyang would carry a soft sword on his waist. Chu Xiaoyang was proud and arrogant. Adding in his strong martial arts, this spirit snake sword that could cut through iron like mud had been kept close to his body, but he had never used it in the last 10 years. He wanted to kill today. He wanted to him. He just wanted to kill. He just wanted to kill this black-clothed man in this. His right hand trembled and the soft snake-like sword suddenly became straight, stabbing at Emo Chuan's right wrist. The spirit snake sword was filled with internal energy as it whistled through the air. Before the sword arrived, the sound had already arrived. This sword was filled with anger and its might was unstoppable. Although Chu Xiaoyang hated Emo Chuan, this sword was not aimed at Emo Chuan's vital points. He was not willing to kill Emo Chuan with this sword. He wanted to cut off Emo Chuan's tendons first and turn him into a cripple. Then in front of Qianning he would cut off all 10 of his fingers, cut off his hands and then cut off his arms. Chapter 231. He wanted Qianning to personally see this man bleed, wail, and beg for mercy in front of her. He wanted her to watch this man slowly be tortured to death. He wanted to let Qianning see how this man would be chopped into meat paste and then be eaten by his beloved dog. He wanted everyone to see what kind of ending would befall anyone that wanted to touch his Chu Xiaoyang's woman. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes revealed a cold glow and his lips curled into a cruel smile, as if he could already see this scene. The sword in his hand was like a poisonous snake, instantly stabbing in front of Emo Chuan. Emo Chuan did not dodge at all. It was unknown if he was scared by Chu Xiaoyang's attack or if he did not have time to dodge at all. Xiaohei, be careful. Although she had seen Emo Chuan's superb martial arts, seeing Chu Xiaoyang's incomparably sharp sword with blood flowing out of his eyes, Qinning's heart couldn't help jumping up. The reminder she blurted out made Chu Xiaoyang even more furious. She was his princess, his woman, but she was warning another man. Did she still have his highness and her husband in her eyes? Cheap woman, this king will kill him first and then kill you. He gave a wild roar and the spirit snake sword's tip was already stabbing into Emo Chuan's wrist. Chu Xiaoyang revealed a fiendish smile. What is going on? Suddenly his smile froze and his eyes opened wide as he stared at the tip of his sword. The sword tip did not stab into Emo Chuan's skin. Rather like a magic trick, it was caught between Emo Chuan's fingers and stopped there, not moving at all. Chu Xiaoyang used all his strength to pull back, but it was like the sword was stuck in Emo Chuan's fingers and he could not pull it back at all. His heart was filled with shock and he sent all his strength into his right arm. Pulling it back, he suddenly shouted, "Withdraw the sword." "All right, I'll withdraw the sword." Emo Chuan gave a cold smile and his fingers suddenly loosened. Chu Xiaoyang used all his strength this time, but who would have thought that he would pull empty air? All the blood in his body flowed backwards and his chest heavily trembled, like he had been hit by a giant hammer. He couldn't help opening his mouth and spitting out a mouthful of blood with a wah sound. Everyone was shocked, not understanding what had just happened at all. They only saw His Highness stab at the black-clothed man with his sword and the man used 2 fingers to catch His Highness' sword. Then His Highness shouted, "Withdraw the sword," and the man obediently withdrew his sword. In the end, His Highness spat out a mouthful of blood as if he was seriously injured. What was going on? The others could not understand, but Chu Xiaoyang, Chu Xiaochuan could not understand. The rage and killing intent on his face had unknowingly vanished, and it was replaced by a wisp of seriousness. He held his chest, took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Just by circulating his inner breath, he already knew that he had suffered serious internal injuries. This was in Chuan Chu of him. Although Emo Chuan had only revealed this one move from beginning to end, which was using 2 fingers to catch the tip of his sword, when experts exchanged moves, a single move was enough to decide victory in life and death. Emo Chuan's move of borrowing strength was even more ingenious. He had grasped the perfect timing and allowed Chu Xiaoyang to use his own internal energy to injure his organs. This move not only meant that Emo Chuan's martial arts were very high, but his mind was also very agile. Chapter 232. Who are you? How did you sneak into this king's palace? Who sent you to assassinate this king? Chu Xiaoyang's eyes stared right at Emo Chuan. With such a high level of skill, he could not be a guard of his palace, he had to be an assassin from outside. His first reaction was that the other side wanted to kill him. Assassinate you? Emo Chuan softly raised his brows and asked back, "Are you worthy?" He did not look at Chu Xiaoyang from the corner of his eyes as he turned to Qining and said, "I'll send you back." Chu Xiaoyang was ignored once again and he almost went crazy with rage. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of Emo Chuan's unfathomable martial arts, he would have already charged forward. Even if it was like this, his right hand that was holding the sword was already trembling and the spirit snake sword was like a snake. "Qining, do you still have any face? As this king's princess, you actually shamelessly hooked up with a man. This man is the wild man you brought to the Flowing Cloud Pavilion last night, right? This king is telling you as long as you are this king's princess, you will forever be this king's woman. If you want to be together with this wild man, don't even think about it. This king will announce your scandal to the world and let everyone know that you, the young miss of the Qin family's country-protecting palace, Qining, is a real slut who hooks up with men." Chu Xiaoyang stared at Emo Chuan and Qining's disappearing backs as he loudly cursed. Flustered and exasperated, he blurted out such vulgar words. Everyone's jaws almost dropped when they heard it. They looked at His Highness in a daze, not daring to believe that these words would come out of His Highness' mouth. They never thought that the cold and noble Highness would actually curse like a hoodlum on the streets. Zai, the crows in the world were all black. Men all reacted the same when they were cuckolded, even the noble Highness was not spared. Chu Xiaoyang shouted at the top of his lungs, but Qining and Emo Chuan could clearly hear him. "Pa!" Everyone only saw a blur before their eyes, followed by a heavy and crisp sound. Chu Xiaoyang covered his right cheek and looked at Emo Chuan who had suddenly appeared in front of him in disbelief. He was about to angrily curse, but before he could even open his mouth, the left side of his face was heavily slapped. Pa! This sound was even louder than the previous one, and it was even heavier. A trace of blood came out from the corner of Chu Xiaoyang's mouth. He was completely dumbfounded. The golden crown that bound his hair had been knocked off by these two slaps. His hair was disheveled and his appearance was a mess. Chu Xiaoyang did not dare believe it, he had really been slapped in the face. He was the dignified King Ding Yuan, the emperor's blood-related nephew. He had actually been slapped twice in the face by a wild man that came out of nowhere. And it was in front of everyone's eyes. Chu Xiaoyang's face was burning hot. The pain was only a small part of it, it was mainly because of his embarrassment. When the servants saw this scene, their jaws dropped to the ground. Their Highness, this. Qin Baiyun came back to her senses and realized that the situation was bad. She called Lan Xiang and told her to quickly return to the palace and call His Highness guards to protect Chu Xiaoyang. Mo Chuan had already seen it from the corner of his eyes, but he ignored it. You dare hit this king, you brat, you must be tired of living. Offending this king for that shameless woman, do you know what your end will be? Chu Xiaoyang's words were squeezed out from between his teeth. His voice was ice cold and his eyes were filled with poison. Chapter 233. Exterminating your family, do you have the ability? Mo Chuan gave a contemptuous smile. He walked straight at Chu Xiaoyang as a sharp aura was released from his body. Chu Xiaoyang couldn't help taking 2 steps back. His face turned white and his heart filled with an inexplicable fear. Who was this man? The killing intent coming from him was truly terrifying. I won't kill you because you're not worthy. Mo Chuan coldly and arrogantly raised his chin as he looked at Chu Xiaoyang with contempt. The famous King Ding Yuan actually dares to say this kind of rude and uneducated words. You're simply throwing away the face of the royal family. I've really overestimated you. These 2 slaps are for you to remember, people will always be humiliated by others. You better behave yourself. Chu Xiaoyang went crazy with rage. His eyes turned red as he shouted, I don't know where this wild man came from, what qualifications do you have to teach this king a lesson? Who do you think you are? The emperor? He did not care as he raised the spirit snake sword and stabbed at Mo Chuan. His heart was filled with hatred and he wished he could stab a hole in his body. Although he was filled with anger, his sword art was very exquisite. This sword move was very agile and the spirit snake sword turned into countless dots of light, just like a blossoming pear flower. Mo Chuan gave a cold laugh and his body floated up, dodging his sword. When he landed on the ground, there was a willow branch in his hand. There were several yellow willow buds on the soft branch. Unrepentant thing, I'll use this willow branch to teach you a lesson today. Mo Chuan shook the willow branch in his hand. When Chu Xiaoyang saw this, his chest almost exploded with rage. This man did not place him in his eyes at all. He actually used a broken willow branch to deal with his spirit snake sword that could cut through iron like mud. Alright, you're seeking death. When you go to King Yama, don't blame this king for not warning you. Chu Xiaoyang's face was as calm as water. With a flick of his wrist, the spirit snake sword turned into a long snake that bit at Mo Chuan. His sword looked normal, but there were 9 powerful moves behind it. If the other side did not take out a weapon to block it, it would be hard for them to block the endless killing moves. If Mo Chuan had a treasure sword in his hand, it would not be hard to deal with this move. He would only need to use his 2 swords to block it, but Mo Chuan's weapon was only a willow branch and it would break when it touched the blade. Mo Chuan knew how strong this move was. With a cold laugh, he shook the willow branch in his hand. He did not dodge it and charged at the spirit snake sword. Chu Xiaoyang slashed out with his sword, thinking that he would cut the willow branch in half. Who would have thought that he would cut empty air, and the sword in his hand suddenly sank, as if something heavy was wrapped around it. His heart shuddered. He saw that the willow branch seemed to be glued to his long sword. He changed a few sword moves, but he couldn't shake it off. Moreover, the sword became heavier and heavier, to the point that he almost couldn't lift it. What kind of strange move was this? Chu Xiaoyang's heart was filled with shock. He wanted to let go of the sword, but Mo Chuan did not give him a chance. The willow branch in his hand slightly flicked and the spirit snake sword flew out of Chu Xiaoyang's hand. It flew straight up and it was like a dancing silver snake flying into the sky. Chapter 234. You better clean your mouth in the future. If I hear you insult her again, I won't be as polite as today. Mo Chuan said with an expressionless face. Chu Xiaoyang felt his chest, back and thighs turn cold. A gust of wind blew by and he suddenly felt a chill. When he looked down he was shocked. He saw that a large piece of his clothes was missing, revealing his light wheat-colored skin. His back was also cold, so the clothes on his back must have been cut by Emo Chuan's willow branch. What made him feel the most embarrassed was that his two bare thighs were exposed to everyone's eyes. This was Emo Chuan being merciful, only cutting off two of his trousers. If he had cut off his belt, he would have been naked in front of everyone. Chu Xiaoyang was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. It was Qin Baiyun who was smart. She quickly took off her cloak and wrapped it around Chu Xiaoyang, preventing him from losing face in front of everyone. Chu Xiaoyang let out a sigh of relief and the heat on his face disappeared. He gratefully looked at Qin Baiyun. Just based on this point, that cheap woman Qin Ning could never compare to Yun. After exchanging a few moves with Emo Chuan, he knew that if they were to fight, his martial arts could not compare to the other side. A wise man did not fight when the odds were against him. He temporarily swallowed his anger and remembered this debt. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years was not too late. Qin Ning, you are jealous of Yun, so you used your horse to kill Yun. Not only did this king see it, everyone here saw it. Even if this matter was reported to the emperor, you would still be sentenced to death. A woman's heart is the most vicious in the world. I didn't expect you to be so vicious. Yun'er is pregnant with this prince's child, yet you're still so ruthless, almost causing her to lose both her life. Let this prince tell you this matter will not end like this. Chu Xiaoyang had suffered a large loss under Emo Chuan's hands. He did not dare provoke Emo Chuan again, so he aimed his spear at Qin Ning. Qin Baiyun took 2 steps forward like a willow in the wind. Tears flowed down as she held her stomach and said, "Elder sister, little sister has never offended elder sister, so why must elder sister treat little sister so ruthlessly? Even if his highness dotes on little sister and makes elder sister angry, this unborn child is still innocent." The two of them were accusing Qin Ning of using her horse to kill people out of jealousy. Qin Ning couldn't help wanting to laugh. Her eyes fell onto the blue and white porcelain horse that had stopped breathing. The horse was already dead, so there was no proof no what she said. If it wasn't for the horse not reacting when she pulled it several times, perhaps she would have thought it was on purpose. But she was certain that this matter was not an accident, but rather it was a very well. This was not a bad thing, she would not take it. Baiyun, you are my younger sister. I don't even have time to dote on you. Why would I hurt you and the child in your womb? Do you think I'm such a heartless person? It was obvious that someone wanted to frame me and kill me with a borrowed knife, eliminating both of us in one fell swoop. This person is very vicious and has ulterior motives. Your Highness, little sister, this matter was caused by me, so give me 3 days. In 3 days, I will definitely find this person and hand him over to your Highness and little sister to deal with. Qin Ning knew that White Lotus had good acting skills, but her own acting skills were not bad either. These words immediately shut the mouths of the surrounding people who were discussing among themselves. Chapter 253. Chu Xiaoyang's cold eyes fell onto her face and he coldly said, "What do you want to do?" Seeing the calm expression on Qin Ning's face, a thought suddenly flashed in his mind. Could this accident be related to her? But what method did she use to make those horses suddenly go crazy? She didn't have that kind of skill. Your Highness, did you forget what I said yesterday? Qin Ning lazily curled her lips and spoke as if nothing had happened. What words? Chu Xiaoyang snapped. Qin Ning blinked. So your Highness is this forgetful? You've already forgotten what you heard yesterday. It seems like what your Highness needs to drink isn't Angelica deer tail soup, but rather a brain-nourishing pill. This king doesn't have time to listen to your nonsense. Xiaoanzi, why aren't you going? Chu Xiaoyang gave another sharp shout. Your Highness truly has a big temper. Since you don't want to find the killer that wants to hurt little sister, then I won't worry about it. Little sister has been frightened, so your Highness should quickly find a doctor to take a look at her. Don't let little sister keep talking about killing people, it's just too scary. Little sister still has a child in her stomach, don't you want to accumulate some good fortune for your unborn child? Qin Ning curled her lips and looked at Qin Baiyun with a taunting gaze. Qin Baiyun's body trembled and she couldn't help covering her stomach. She buried her head deep into Chu Xiaoyang's chest and said in a trembling voice, Your Highness Yun'er is very scared. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with a scarlet killing intent as he suddenly grabbed Qin Ning's right wrist. He snapped, "Speak clearly for this king. Are my words not clear enough?" Chen Ning gave a Z sound and looked at Chu Xiaoyang with a smile. "Does your highness always like to move your hands when you speak? Holding my hand like this, aren't you afraid little sister Bai Yun will be jealous?" Chu Xiaoyang was so angry that his veins popped out. It was like he had been bitten by a snake as he let go. Chen Ning was not in a rush. She took out a snow-white handkerchief from her chest and wiped the hand that Chu Xiaoyang had just grabbed. Her actions almost made Chu Xiaoyang explode with anger. "Chen Ning," he said word for word. His eyes were as cold as a knife. "Let's talk properly, there's no need to hold hands. Doesn't your highness want to find little sister's killer? Now that you've found it, why hasn't your highness dealt with it? Now that you've found it, why hasn't your highness dealt with it yet?" Chu Xiaoyang's eyes followed the white handkerchief that was being blown by the wind. His temples were throbbing in pain and his ears were ringing, so he did not hear what Chen Ning was saying at all. He came back to his senses and asked, Chen said. "Chen?" ? Chen Ning pursed her lips into a smile. Shaoanzi. The King Ding Yuan Palace did not only have a place to raise horses, there were also stables for the guards' horses. Not long after, Shaoanzi came galloping over on a horse, followed closely by 5 guards on horseback. They did not wait for Shaoanchu before Shao and Chu Shaoanchu. Shaoanzi Ning. He Chuanzi Shaoan he Shaoan before. "Get on the horses and run," he shouted at the guards. The guards did not understand, so they obediently jumped onto their horses. They did not know where His Highness wanted them to go, so they could only follow the track. Mo Chuan's legs squeezed the horse's belly and it obediently moved forward. The horse was swaying back and forth. With the cool night wind blowing, Chen Ning opened her eyes in a daze. "You're awake." Mo Chuan's deep voice sounded from above her head. "Well, where are we?" She found that she was in Mo Chuan's arms and there were little stars dancing in the blue night sky in front of her. Mo Chuan's face was like a reflection in the water, swaying back and forth, making it hard for her to see clearly. "I'll send you home," he replied.